Biafra, the war that nearly broke Nigeria, how a new nation rose and fell in just 30 months in 1967. Nigeria, Africa's most populous country, was only 7 years old. Still fresh from colonial independence, it had immense promise, natural resources, dynamic cultures, and an educated elite, but it also carried deep ethnic divisions, political fragility, and the scars of colonial engineering. When the southeastern region seceded to form the Republic of Biafra, it triggered one of the most devastating civil wars in postcolonial Africa. What followed was 3 years of armed conflict, a humanitarian crisis, and the death of over 1 million people, mostly civilians. This is the story of Biafra, and a war that still haunts Nigeria's politics today. A country inherited, not chosen. Nigeria, as we know it, was never created by consensus. It was built by British colonial policy, which merged diverse kingdoms, ethnic groups, and regions into a single administrative colony in 1914. At independence, in 1960, the new nation inherited a federal structure divided mainly into 3 regions. The north, majority, predominantly Muslim; the west, Yoruba-dominated and mixed religiously; the east, primarily Igbo and Christian. Each region had its own leaders, ambitions, and economic strengths, but also deep-seated mistrust. This fragile equilibrium collapsed quickly. Coups, chaos, and the collapse of trust. In January 1966, a group of mostly Igbo military officers staged a coup, assassinating top leaders primarily from the north and west. Though meant to end corruption, the coup was widely viewed as an Igbo power grab. The backlash was immediate. A counter-coup in July 1966, led by northern officers, restored military control but also triggered ethnic violence across northern Nigeria. Pogroms against Igbos left over 30,000 dead and drove over 1 million back to the east. The federal government failed to act decisively, and distrust hardened into separatist resolve. Secession. The birth of Biafra. On May 30, 1967, Colonel Odumegwu Ojukwu, military governor of eastern Nigeria, declared independence. The formation of the Republic of Biafra. His reasons were clear. The Nigerian state had failed to protect its own citizens. To Igbos and their neighbors, Biafra wasn't just secessionite, was survival. But for General Yakubu Gowon, now head of state, Biafra's move was a threat to national unity and sovereignty. War was inevitable. The Biafran War begins. What began as a swift military operation turned into a prolonged and bitter war. Though outgunned and outnumbered, Biafra put up stiff resistance, rallying global sympathy and using guerrilla tactics to survive. But Nigeria, backed by Britain, the Soviet Union, and others, tightened the noose, cutting off supply lines and launching a blockade. The most harrowing consequence wasn't just military, it was humanitarian. By 1968, the blockade caused widespread famine. Images of emaciated Biafran children, with swollen bellies and sunken eyes, were broadcast worldwide, shocking the conscience of millions. Over 1 million people, mostly civilians, died not from bullets, but from hunger. International reactions and relief. While few countries officially recognized Biafra, international aid efforts surged. Organizations like the Red Cross, Caritas, and SANS worked to deliver aid by air. Yet Nigerian authorities saw this as interference, and aid flights were often blocked or shot at. Globally, the war sparked fierce debates about sovereignty versus humanitarian intervention, a question still relevant today. Collapse and reintegration. In January 1970, after intense military pressure and internal exhaustion, Biafra surrendered. Ojukwu fled into exile. The Republic of Biafra ceased to exist. General Gowon declared no victor, no vanquished, and launched programs for reconciliation, reconstruction, and reintegration. Many Biafran soldiers and civilians returned to a still divided nation, but one now more centralized and legacy and unfinished business. The Biafran War was not just a conflict, it was a reckoning. It exposed the weaknesses of the Nigerian Federation. It revealed how fragile nationhood could be when built without equity, and it created a memory of trauma, dignity, and resistance that remains deeply embedded in Igbo identity. Today, echoes of Biafra still resonate. The indigenous people of Biafra continue to demand a referendum. Debates over resource control, marginalization, and ethnic power sharing dominate Nigerian politics. The war remains taboo in public discourse, yet vivid in private memory. A nation still healing. The Biafran War didn't destroy Nigeria, but it nearly did. It left behind mass graves and shattered communities, but also a stronger resolve for unity, however fragile. To understand modern Nigeria, you must understand Biafra, not just the war, but the fears, hopes, and betrayals that made it possible. Because in the end, Biafra isn't just history, it's a question that Nigeria still hasn't fully answered.